At least 6 people were killed and 6 others wounded after a group of gunmen fired at customers in a restaurant in Ecuador. Brazilian President Luiz Inácio has set back call for peace in Ukraine during the G7 summit held in Japan. Warring factions in Sudan agreed to a 7-day ceasefire following talks in the Saudi Arabian city of Jeddah. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. At least 6 people were killed and 6 others wounded after a group of gunmen fired indiscriminately at customers in a restaurant in the Ecuadorian provincial capital of Santa Elena. Police are investigating the possibility that the attack was directed against the son of a leader of an organized crime group operating in the country. This new massacre in the tourist sector of the city comes after at least 4 people were killed and 10 others wounded last Thursday when unknown assailants burst in and fired shots during the wake of a traffic officer in the city of Manta, on the coast of the South American country. The Attorney General's office in El Salvador, together with the National Police, launched an investigation into the events that took place at the Cuscatlán Stadium, where at least 12 people lost their lives and dozens were injured after a fan stampede. Police authorities say they expect to get to the last details of this incident that occurred on Saturday night, when hundreds of people were trying to enter the stadium to watch the football match between the FTS and the Alianza teams. According to local media, police are investigating the overbooking of the event's tickets since it slowed down the access to the stadium and contributed to the chaos. They are also investigating why only one south entrance to the stadium was open when it had been recommended that they open the other access. Authorities affirmed that they will establish responsibilities among the club leaders, stadium administration, and those in charge of the ticket office.
Tonight, El Salvador is in mourning. A sporting event that should have been an occasion for healthy recreation has become a battlefield in which we have lost the lives of our Salvadoran brothers, while others are also fighting to survive in the operating room. It is also reprehensible that the people in charge of those events, of ticket sales, do not have strict control. Fans have shown that they were sold counterfeit tickets and allowed entry. Others claim that there was overselling on the black market. And if that was the case, the fact is that it ended in tragedy. President Nayib Bukele has ordered an exhaustive investigation so that nothing goes unpunished and those responsible face justice.
An Alianza fan blamed the club's directors for keeping the gates closed while thousands of fans were trying to enter the stadium.
There were 2 doors for 5,000 people. Here, the only responsible is Alianza. There are dead people here, and Alianza and nobody else will take care of it. People can't take care of it. People wanted to get out of there in order to survive. I went out of there in order to survive, and I thought I had lost my son.
In Colombia, a new massacre was reported where 4 indigenous kids were murdered in Caqueta department in the south of the country. This Saturday, the Institute for Development and Peace Studies in the past announced the murder of the minors who belong to the Muri indigenous ethnic group. According to the non-governmental organization, they had been forcibly recruited on March 23rd by members of irregular armed groups in the area. However, the 4 boys managed to escape from the criminal organization, and on May 15th, both were found and executed on May 17th in the community of Los Estrechos in Solanos municipality. According to In the Past reports, this represents an increase to 36 massacres in the country by 2023. Cuba's National Electoral Council carried out on Sunday a dynamic test for the upcoming provincial governor and vice governor elections. The president of the National Electoral Council, Alina Balseiro, had explained recently that the exercise would simulate the voting, counting, tallying, and validation of the results. On May 28th, the majority of the municipal assemblies of the People's Power of the island will be elected by free, equal, direct, and secret vote. The council also said that if the required number of officials are not reached, a new round will be held within the following 7 days. The results of the elections will be processed by a system developed by the University of Computer Sciences of the Caribbean country. Tens of thousands marched on Saturday in Montevideo, Uruguay, to demand truth and justice for the 197 people who disappeared during the 1973-1985 civil military dictatorship. Demonstrators accompanied the 28th edition of the March of Silence, carrying black and white banners, remembering the faces of the Uruguayan missing detainees. Members of the group, mothers and relatives of detained and missing Uruguayans demanded on Friday that whoever had information should hand it over in order to, what they call, break with the culture of impunity, since progress has been slow and insufficient. Around 70 demonstrations of support were reported in different Uruguayan provinces as well as outside the country, such as Argentina, Chile, Spain, Sweden, France, and the United Kingdom.
And this is the way that we, the relatives of the disappeared, together with society as a whole, as a state about these crimes, because they were crimes against humanity committed by the Uruguayan state terrorism, and civil military coup d'etat. This is the way we have to demand memory, truth, and justice. It is extremely important because in reality we say that we are all family members, because although he is my uncle, a brother, a cousin, a son, in reality he or she is a part of society that was taken from us by force, and they owe the whole society a response, because they took away part of our history in the most violent way possible, and we still don't have an answer.
Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back from the South. The U.S. Defense Department announced a new shipment of arms and ammunition worth $375 million for Ukraine. In a press release following a meeting in Japan between U.S. President Joe Biden and his Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky, it was reported that the package includes additional ammunition for equipped HIMARS missile launchers, artillery rounds, anti-armor capacities, and critical material that Ukraine is using in the conflict with Russia. This is the 38th equipment delivery from Pentagon inventories to Ukraine since August 2021. Russia has repeatedly denounced the direct involvement of the United States in the conflict in Ukraine with a constant supply of weapons. G7 leaders met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Sunday, which focused on military support to Kiev within the framework of the summit held in the Japanese city of Hiroshima. One of the most relevant developments regarding military aid that has come out during the summit is Washington's approval for other G7 partners to provide the Kiev troops with US-made F-16 fighter jets. The decision was rejected by Moscow and means the West is once again escalating the situation towards a possible nuclear conflict. On Saturday, the summit hurried to issue the statement on this matter, which also includes a hard stance towards China without translating it into the language of the host country, as it is customary in meetings of this time. Meanwhile, hundreds of demonstrators expressed their rejection of the summit with slogans which protested the gathering, describing it as imperialist and rejecting the Western power stance towards China. Protesters also questioned Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, who holds the rotating presidency of the G7, for choosing Hiroshima to host the meeting and taking the presidents, including U.S. Joe Biden, to visit the Hiroshima Peace Memorial Museum. The Japanese city was devastated on August 6, 1945, when a U.S. plane dropped the first nuclear bomb used in actual combat, which immediately killed an estimated 80,000 people.
With the statement made by the summit. The statement is only in the interest of those in power in the seven countries. Such a position will lead to war.
The G7 summit is a war conference. We strongly oppose it, and we strongly oppose the United States military actions. Japan has purchased 400 Tomahawk missiles from the United States and has deployed missiles in the southwestern islands, including Okinawa, which I absolutely oppose, as it would lead to war.
Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Silva called for peace in Ukraine during the G7 summit. President Lula took part in the G7 summit as a guest, marking the return of the South American country to the meeting of the group that brings together the 7 most industrialized economies in the world: Germany, Canada, the United States, France, Italy, Japan, and the United Kingdom. During the meeting, Lula held talks with G7 leaders, but did not meet with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky due to conflicting agendas. During the talks, the leaders of the bloc tried to convince the Brazilian head of state of their position on the conflict in Ukraine. In this regard, Lula advocated a negotiated solution to the conflict in Ukraine with the creation of a group of countries to promote dialogue between the nations. Increased official results show the governing conservatives of Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis with a huge lead over the left-wing opposition party with over 75% of votes counted. The left-wing opposition party of former Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras was trailing with 20% of the vote compared to 40% for Mitsotakis' New Democracy Party. However, the new electoral law under which the vote was held means Mitsotakis will struggle to form a government without seeking a coalition partner. If the leading party falls short of 45% of the votes to obtain an absolute majority of 151 seats, new elections would be called. More than 21,500 polling stations opened their doors at 7 a.m. local time to receive close to 10 million voters. In France, a protest took place on Sunday during the Cannes Film Festival against the new retirement age law. Dozens of protesters gathered on the boulevard Carnot to oppose to the new reform, which raises the retirement age from 62 to 64. Demonstrators sang what has become the anthem of retirement protests. We are here even if Macron doesn't want us to be here, while a group repeatedly threw an effigy of the French president into the air. The protest was prevented from getting too close to the festival site by police blockade, reducing disruption to this year's event. France has been the scene of strikes and demonstrations for months, chiefly because of President Emmanuel Macron's pension reform law, which he passed last month by using constitutional powers to circumvent opposition in parliament, raises the retirement age to 64. teleSUR English continues to grow. You can now tune in from 33 different African countries through StarSat, dial 461 and enjoy Latin American alternative broadcasts. One final short break and we'll be right back. Don't go away. Welcome back from the south. In Sudan, warring factions have agreed to a 7-day ceasefire following talks in the Saudi Arabian city of Jeddah. It will take effect 48 hours after, at 9:45 p.m. local time on Monday. The sponsors of the talks, the United States and Saudi Arabia, said in their joint statement. Numerous previous ceasefire agreements were violated. However, this agreement will be enforced by a U.S., Saudi, and international support and monitoring mechanism. The agreement also calls for distributing humanitarian assistance, restoring essential services, and withdrawing forces from hospitals and essential public facilities.
It is a 7-day ceasefire agreement, and it will be automatically renewed until we reach a permanent ceasefire through mechanisms we will discuss in the coming days to achieve confidence between the parties and for more humanitarian services for the Sudanese citizen. This Sudanese blood is precious to you more than anyone else, and you know the importance of saving it. I hope this agreement will be a hope for the Sudanese people, especially the people of Khartoum, in which they can finish their humanitarian services in the 7 days, and hopefully it will be more.
However, in this context, new fighting broke out on Sunday in Khartoum, the capital of Sudan, after a new truce was announced as of Monday. Since the fighting began on April 15, the parties have violated several truces brokered by Saudi Arabia and the U.S. However, Riyadh and Washington assured the contrary to the previous ceasefire. The new agreement was signed by both parties, which is why they expect it to be respected. According to sources, since the fighting began, close to 1,000 people have lost their lives and more than 1 million have fled their homes. On Sunday, the Palestinian presidency denounced the Israeli minister's raid on Al-Aqsa Mosque. Israeli National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir entered the courtyards of the Al-Aqsa Mosque in occupied Jerusalem in what Palestinians call a blatant attack on the holy site. The Palestinian spokesman said that attempts by the Israeli minister and other radicals to change the status quo at Al-Aqsa are condemned and will fail. The official also said that this action will not impose Israeli sovereignty over Al-Aqsa Mosque. The authorities also said that this gesture is a violation of historical and legal rights and that Israeli attacks on Islamic and Christian holy sites in Jerusalem are becoming more frequent. On Sunday, Oman Sultan Haitham bin Tariq Al Said arrived in Cairo for a two-day visit. The visit is the first of its kind to Egypt since Sultan Haitham took power. In a statement, the Omani Sultanate Diwan said the two leaders aim to strengthen ties and to boost cooperation in various fields. Relations between Egypt and Iran were also expected to be discussed. During the visit, the Omani-Egyptian Business Forum would be organized to showcase the investment potentials available in the Sultanate, the regulations and basic structures attractive to investors in many areas, including renewable energy and green hydrogen. Both countries would sign a number of agreements and improve economic ties, building on the previous partnerships signed during the Egyptian president's visit to Oman in June 2022. They will also touch on the shared principles of their foreign policy and efforts to support the Arab region. In Italy, a red alert remained in place on Sunday because of the incessant rain and the possibility of landslides in the region of Emilia-Romagna, where the floods of the last few days have caused 14 deaths. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni landed in Emilia-Romagna on Sunday to visit the flooded areas after returning from the Group of Seven summit in Japan. More than 4,000 operations have been carried out by firefighters who are still working to reach towns and villages that have been cut off from highways, electricity, and mobile phone service following heavy rain and flooding. About 36,000 people have been evacuated and more than 100 towns have been affected, with 622 roads closed. The flooded areas continue to be cleaned up thanks to the help of more than 1,500 volunteers from all over Italy. As the cleanup efforts continue, the number of people evacuated is decreasing. About 10,000 people who had been displaced have been able to return home. From Saturday, heavy rainfall and storms lashed Jiangxi province in East China and southwest China's Chongqing municipality. From Saturday to Sunday morning, rainstorms hit 41 districts and counties in Jiangxi, with precipitation reaching up to 138 millimeters. Meanwhile, water levels in the Puhi River in the southern suburbs of Chongqing rose to near warning levels as heavy rain began battering the municipality from Saturday evening. Heavy rains are forecast to continue in parts of Jiangxi and Chongqing on Monday, and China's Meteorological Authority on Sunday renewed a blue alert for rainstorms in some parts of the country. Local governments have been advised to make due preparations and plans for rain-triggered natural disasters. In India, heat waves have persisted since the beginning of the year, causing significant agricultural losses and affecting the daily lives of millions. Large parts of India have experienced record temperatures of over 45 degrees Celsius this summer. For India's 1.4 billion people living in overcrowded cities without access to well-ventilated or air-conditioned housing, the heat wave means health risk, energy overload, and a decline in employment. Meanwhile, the Asian nation's agriculture is losing billions of dollars due to the resulting droughts.
We spent a lot of money on pesticides and fertilizers, but made no profits. We have worked hard, but the crop still failed as it is too hot.
I've come to the end of this news brief. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.